Welcome to an AM Coffee. I love Substack. When I started this is George Fontes, World Ablaze. We're going to talk about that in a second. When I started doing Substack, it really was a problem solver. But then I got to a point where I'm like, it's got its own problems. Everything does. I've been back to the grind on TikTok, pure escapism. That's just where I make my money. I didn't think I'd go back to it at the clip I am. I feel like I am not doing as much here as I should be beyond the podcast, meaning in the writing and whatnot. And then I look and I see George Fontes is over here. He's got the clips going. You're doing all the shit. But I mean, like, it's exhausting, isn't it? Be honest.
Yeah, it's hard, man. And honestly, with Substack, the reason I even came over was to do what you were doing in terms of trying to like actually write stuff, because I really want to put written, opinion pieces and articles out. I don't even have the time, man. You're just trying to do clips and recordings and podcasts. It's like that alone takes up my time. So by the time I get to Substack, I'm just basically putting video clips, but I'm not doing a whole lot of writing, which is not the reason I even came to Substack. So, it is hard to keep up with everything with social media. It really is.
Boy, I'm so happy to hear that, because that's the internal crisis. Let's just stay on this for a second.
Yeah.
Because it's so genuine. I mean, like, for me, I feel that with Twitch, Substack. I mean, I was doing all this writing on Substack, and I use AI as an editor. I don't let AI write for me. I mean, I'll talk into it. I'll use it as a workflow tool, but it's still got to be me. And a lot of that comes with, what do you want to say? Sometimes I'm not sure I should be saying the things that I'm thinking in today's world. So we got to start there. Right? And my buddy Scott said, you see what George is saying over on his page? I go, no, I don't look. I'm too busy. I don't look at my own fucking page. You think I know what George is up to? I'm sure there's some crazy shit going, but look at the world. Are you going to change the name one day when we figure this shit out? Or are you just hedging your bet that humans are not?
I don't know. Okay. The thing, so the intent with the name was supposed to be, it was like a dual meaning. Because I also look at World Ablaze as people like who are trendsetters or who are like pushing the envelope in something. So those are people I think are set in the world ablaze, but at the same time, the world is ablaze. So that was the original purpose, but it just turned out just the world being pretty much on fire.
That's so funny, because Under the Influence, which is my podcast name, was sort of the same idea, and then it started taking on a broader meaning.
I might change it later. I'm not sure yet, but right now, I mean, it just seems to fit everything that's happening. So, I'm just rolling with it.
Well, look, I mean, first of all, that almost brings me to my last point here on the whiteboard. So we'll probably get there first. But
sure.
I to stick on the creator thing for a second, the burnout proposition is real. And do you find that on some days your output in certain areas is up, and then other days it's down, and it's like there's no consistency to what you put
honestly, every day, man. The week of Thanksgiving, like of the Thanksgiving holiday, I took one of the days to try to catch. I was like at least a month and a half behind on actually doing edits and getting clips and whatnot out. And I took the whole day, and I was literally in my office for, I swear to you, when my wife came in and she's like, "You've been in here for 18 hours." And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm almost done." And it was just literally editing like the last couple of episodes and clips and just trying to make sure they're out to all the social media platforms. And I still feel like I'm behind. It's like I can never keep up with it. And it's like demanding, because as soon as you don't do anything, you fall behind. It's like you miss one day and people forget about you. It's a crazy thing.
But it's also that the clips are also, they're not necessarily evergreen. So some of that
no,
late
right.
by the time you get it out. And so for me, I have stuff that, like, let's just say a live highlights from TikTok or podcast highlights. And by the time I get to it, it's not relevant anymore. Or to me, it's not relevant. Maybe it would be to the audience, but I've talked myself out of it.
No, you're right. I have a few clips that actually would be considered evergreen. But most of it is, like you said, like I'm trying to keep up with current events, what's happening. And by the time I do get it, you're right. If I don't get it out at a certain time, it's like, oh, well, you kind of already missed your window. But, I think it's still important to get those things out so people can see different perspectives. And a lot of what I do on my side is conversations with people. I do a few solo episodes, which can be unhinged sometimes because it's like venting, but I like having conversations. And I think that's important to get those out.
Same. So to go to the last thing on my list first,
Sure.
the whole joke about changing your name, because look, we have to get past the word Trump. And I question what people are going to do when this man's no longer the center of attention.
I've thought the same thing, honestly, before. It's like once he's gone, where are they going to turn their attention? Like, where's their content going to come from? Especially when you're talking, U.S. politics, obviously. It's like without him, there's almost like they have nothing to say, and there's so much going on that gets like brushed under the rug because no one's focused on it because it's just all about how outlandish Trump is being or what he may or may not have said. And that's all they focus on. And there's so much more going on. There really
On
is. Like
all
every day.
sides.
Yeah. I'm just saying in general, it's like there's just so much going on that's not even being talked about.
Well, and again, this is the problem I have. Working class people always take the brunt. Time and time again, working class people take the brunt. And the media loves it, right? They eat it up. But everybody seems tired of it at the same time.
I think now, I think you're right. I think now, I think it's finally got to the point where people are just done with the bullshit. I'm on X a lot just by the nature of what I do, politics. Like you just can't get away from that platform for it. And I've noticed that people's responses to a lot of posts have like they're really calling people out. They're like, sure, where's your source? Where someone will say something right away, people jumping on them. Where's the source? Where'd you get the information from? Like you're lying because X, Y, Z. Like I think people are getting to the point where you're correct. I think people are just kind of they're actually literally fed up this time. And even what's going on with this Venezuela situation, everyone's calling it out. It's like, whoa, we didn't okay this. Like, why are we over there? What's going on? A lot of people don't know why we're there. Even I'm still foggy on it. And I talk to a lot of different people myself. And it's like, I just had this conversation with my friend Kervin. We just put something out, another episode he was on. He's an Intel analyst and he could tell me some things he can't, but at the same time, we discussed it and he was like, I can tell you my personal opinion and I can tell you what's happening out there in the world in terms of what they're going to tell you. And it's like, even after talking to him, we're still kind of like, I don't know what the hell's going on. I don't understand the play here.
I was thinking about that this morning. I don't know if Trump understands the play. I think this is the real deep state. It's the military. It's the military industrial complex, right? It's the business of war, and ultimately the executive branch is a figurehead, right? It's not the admin.
Absolutely.
So he comes in, and it doesn't matter what he campaigned on. It doesn't matter what any president campaigned on. There's an agenda at a much higher level,
yes,
to spread our influence around the world, and you see it everywhere. We're not meant to understand it. We're just meant to be confused and divided by it.
Yeah, a lot of times. But I have, since we're talking about this now, I'm gonna record another episode on this, and I'll tell you guys some of the stuff that I found and what I think basically on this situation. A lot of people saying it's not about drugs. I'm going to say yes and no on that. I think that's part of it. People are saying, well, Venezuela doesn't actually produce drugs, so why are we even over there? Well, drugs, in terms of drugs, they're a major trafficking route, and they have traffic, not them as a nation, but through Venezuela and surrounding areas. Their government's complicit in it. And, there's literally 250 metric tons of cocaine alone that gets trafficked through Venezuela and through that route because it's a major route. Not a lot of that goes to the US. A lot of it also goes from there out to Asia and Europe. So there's been a longstanding ongoing investigations and operations by the DEA and FBI with these things. And it does involve drugs. In fact, the last time our government tried to work with them was during the Obama era. 2015 was the last time when they're like, hey, we want to work with you to try to get ahead of this and work to get, like, people are saying, well, why are we not going to Mexico and threatening them? Well, Mexico is an ally, and we already work together with them and jointly, both with military, DEA, et cetera. So it's like, we're already working with them. Mexico knows they have a problem. We know there's a problem. And it's on both sides of the border because, supply demand, like,
right, but these are not black and white issues.
No, exactly. But I'm saying we're already working with Mexico. It's like we have a relationship. Is what I'm saying. With Venezuela, we've never had one. Venezuela's always been like, screw you, we're going to do whatever, because they are bought by the cartels. Like literally, cartels run it. They have three major narco terrorists, is what they're designated as now, but narcos that actually live in Venezuela. They control it. And so in 2015, they denied Barack Obama. Like, no, we're not working with you. You know, we have no reason to, whatever. And so this didn't start with Trump. Now, the curious thing, as I think what you're alluding to, is a lot of people are asking why now. I have the same question. I don't know why all of a sudden now, except for this. So with everything going on around the world, a lot of people don't realize that if everybody remembers a little while back, the government was making pretty much kicking the horse nest a bit and poking the bear when it came to the Panama Canal, right? Why? While China is out there, they have two major companies controlling both ports, right? And so, who's an ally of Venezuela? China. So this whole thing in terms of this military operation, it's important to determine an operation from an actual mission or military action. Operation doesn't mean we're actually doing anything militarily in terms of action. It's they're getting things together. At this point, they're applying for funding to get things in place, and then so they're getting this whole. It's like putting a department, like a separate department at a company together. It's like, hey, we might do a marketing team, so we need
But
to
you're
say
saying,
we're going to do this and get funding.
you're saying that it's that this is the U.S. and Mexico.
No, I'm talking about Venezuela now.
No, but
What
I'm
I
saying
was
U.S. and Mexico working together.
earlier, I said that. I said that what I said was maybe this. What I said earlier
Okay.
was that people have said, why are we over there antagonizing Venezuela when
Right.
all the drugs mostly come out through Mexico? And I said that the reason is because we already work with Mexico. Like our governments already work together. We've been working together for years. Where
No,
with
that's what I'm saying.
Venezuela,
So I just wonder. I wonder how much of this is a product of all of that relationship, because what's the interest? What's Mexico's interest in what we're going to be doing potentially in Venezuela?
I don't know. Outside of cartels, the government can care less. I'm sure it's all about the cartels. So as far as the drug component, it's all about the trafficking of drugs through Venezuela because it is a major trafficking route.
Distribution route.
Absolutely. But the bigger picture here is not just that. It's also a presence to make sure that we have control of the area as China becomes more emboldened. Remember, China controls that Panama Canal. They have the Belt and Road Initiative, and they need that canal, full control of that area to be able to use those routes for their trade and their commerce. And so, what China does is like, oh, we have companies there, Chinese companies there. Well, the government controls and runs those. And so, what's going to be interesting in this whole thing, and I'm going to say this outright, everybody, I don't really agree with how we're handling this. I've never have like the whole thing with blowing up boats. We're very well trained. There's no reason we can't stop those boats, capture those people, and question them and find out what's happening and do some investigations. I mean, that part is very true. But as far as the China component here is, with Venezuela being literally a corrupt government, a communist government, it looks like we're doing good by helping the people. Problem is, regime change has never been good, ever. And every time we've got involved, it never really always turned out to be a better situation for the people there. So there's that problem. The other thing is, if we're poking the bear here with Venezuela, it's not about Venezuela really. What's China's reaction going to be? China backs Venezuela. They actually have investments in Venezuela. They also are an ally of Venezuela. They also pledge military protection of Venezuela. And China also wants to control that area. So there's the other component that I'm looking at more than anything else. It's more like, are we setting this up to basically posture and show China, no, we control the area still? Like this is our backyard. Is China going to actually react? And historically, from what I've seen from China with their allies, not really. I mean, they have billions and billions of dollars of investments in African nations. They say that they support many African nations, for example, and other nations around the world. But when there's ever a conflict, we've never seen China come in to help these people either. They just, they're kind of hands off. So this is going to be interesting to see, in my eyes, how's China going to react to this? How far will Trump go, and is he going to react to this? And then to answer people's questions about Trump being unconstitutional in this, no, not really. That's not true. The president can initiate strikes if there's an imminent threat, or they see that there is an imminent threat. They can deploy missions. The problem that we have here is what people need to understand is if it comes to an actual mission in any scenario, they need to notify Congress within 48 hours. And when it comes to a mission, you got 60 days roughly. That's it.
But none of this matters in this world. None of this matters.
No, it
those
doesn't.
rules no longer apply because Trump does whatever Trump wants, and the people signed up for that.
That's one argument. But in understanding this, I'm just explaining what's going on and how.
No,
I'm not saying
I get it. I get it. But what I'm saying is that like this is the thing is like, why are we still trying to talk about what things should be? And I'm not saying you. I'm saying, why are people still reacting at the same level to what Trump does and the disruption of Trump? Like just from the broader, just to pull back.
Yeah.
Because this is what this is what he's always done. B, this is what people asked him to do. And at a certain point, like where is it no longer genuine? Like, you know that this guy's just going to do whatever the hell he wants. There's never going to be an opportunity for Donald Trump to how can I phrase this? There's never going to be an opportunity for Donald Trump, despite what he's doing now that may go against what he campaigned on. There's never going to be an opportunity at the ballot box for him to ever see that be reconciled with his voter base. He's never gonna have to see that again. He's never running again. So he's never going to have to deal with the fallout. There's no political capital lost, is what I'm trying to say. So it doesn't matter when he shatters norms. And that's the thing that I get pissed off about when I turn on the TV these days. It's like, we're still yelling at this level. I get it. 3, 4, 5 months after the election, I get it. Donald Trump, as he said, the first time around, could go out into the middle of the street in Manhattan and shoot somebody and get away with it. So if he's going to blow up boats, he's going to blow up boats.
Yeah. I'm just explaining the technicalities of the situation here.
I know. I'm just ranting because it's fun to rant.
Yeah, it is. And the reason I'm explaining these technicalities is because I see all these people posting on social media just knee-jerk reactions. And I'm not explaining this in defense because I made it clear, like, I don't really agree with this play. I don't.
It doesn't sound like you're. Do people accuse you of that? Defending Trump? Because I'm not tuned into that. I think Scott was trying to tell me that. That's crazy to me. You sound to me when I talk to you like very pragmatic about your approach. Maybe I'm wrong.
No, I mean, there's some things I agree with from where there are things that he may do that look out for America, at least on the surface. Like, I'm saying some things are good. I'm not saying all things are good, right? We can criticize the president, whether I voted for him or not, doesn't matter.
We always have.
I can criticize him, because the reality is, what you said earlier was true. A lot of people voted for him. I voted for him. I said that last time I was on the show. That's fine. But the reason a lot of us voted for him is because, like you said one thing, ran on one platform, said he was going to do X, Y, Z, and ends up not really coming through. And this being his last term, I completely understand what you're saying. And I said the same exact thing. He doesn't care. This is it. And so this is going to lead probably to where the other part of this conversation will go is like, what's next after Trump, right? Is he making the right plays to set up the future for the Republican Party moving forward in terms of the presidency? Is he giving J.D. Vance a chance? I don't know. I don't think he really is.
Do you think he cares? I mean, I think in Trump's mind, Trump would rather see the Trump dynasty continue, which is not what's going to be best for the country. But I also don't think there's any replacement for Trump. So
no, that's the thing. I don't think there's always going to be a legacy. Look, it's like when we're talking about the military actions. A lot of people forget about this. Obama took advantage of everything I was explaining, and he bombed and droned. I don't know how many people in the Middle East. He even freaking droned a fucking wedding. A lot of people forget about that. And when we want to talk about, and this isn't defending Trump. I'm just saying, let's compare and contrast. We talk about Trump. Everyone's like, oh, the deportations, this and this, great. Everybody calls Obama the deporter in chief because he deported 3.9 million within a certain amount of time. So it was like, mass deportation. But you know who did more? It was Bill Clinton. He deported over 12 million people. A lot of people never talk about that. So it's like we can't exactly. We got to do actual compare and contrast. Trump is crass. Trump is an asshole at times, for sure. And I don't think he's very presidential in representing.
Look,
but
that this is such an old conversation, though, George. This is
It
the
is.
point about post-Trump. Like, this is a conversation from 2016. I remember having these conversations back when I was producing with other people, back before Midas Touch was doing their grift, back before
Right.
Lincoln Project was on the scene. And
Yeah.
I used to like all these guys until you start talking to them. And then you realize that there's a cottage industry of just making Trump the boogeyman. I don't really give two shits about Donald Trump. I care about the working class people that keep this country moving, that are continually getting pushed down. And they're getting pushed down by, I love AI, but they're getting pushed down by things like AI because there's no framework, right? There's no guardrails in place. Okay. So everything's going so fast. So you pair all of these things together and like, we're doing this downward spiral where the mass population in the next couple of years is basically going to be stuck at home doing nothing. It's not fear. It's just true. And all they're going to be left to do is to argue about crap. And my question is, how are we going to get out of it? Can we? And in a post-Trump world, are people going to be actually, which is a wild concept, but are people actually going to be like drug addicts that are like on both sides that are now scratching an itch because they can't get a fix?
Yeah, no. So here's what I'm going to say. Happy to move on to this conversation because it's very it's a serious one. And I understand what you're saying about these old talking points, but I mean, are they old or still relevant? We're still going through it. What my point being is a lot of people ignore the past and ignore the real facts of what's happening. What I'm trying to get at is this. You can't say this guy's a monster when they were all monsters.
Correct.
Really. We haven't had.
We have a very short-term memory in this country.
Yeah, and that's where I was going with it.
I get it. I'm just going back and forth with you. But
it is old conversation, but it's like,
but people are stuck in it, George. That's what I'm saying. And like,
we're in a loop.
We're in a loop. So that's why, like, look, I like having these conversations, but I need to push on them because
absolutely,
what's next? Like a guy like you has the ability to speak their mind, to create output, to bring people to the table. So it's like, at what point do you stop talking and you just go, all right, I'm going to run for office? You know what I mean? At what point do all these content creators shut their mouths and run for office?
Well, that's a good point. And I think so if we're talking about moving forward, like you're talking about post-Trump, I don't know what's going to happen post-Trump. It's either going to get crazier in terms of what we're seeing on social media and how people act, or it's going to retract and become what it was and become a much more conservative political system. Not talking about party. I'm just talking about in general, like how we present ourselves, watching what we say, not being so outlandish, right? Mm-hmm. It may go back to that. Yeah, I think so. God because I think, well, I hear you, but at the same time, I think, like you said, people want polish. They want someone who is presidential. They want a politician to act like an actual politician in terms of, how they're representing the people. But they also want transparency. They want them to do their damn jobs. So I hope people in the future, I hope this is what happens. I hope both things happen. I hope that we polish ourselves up, be representative, and stop being a bunch of 12-year-olds out there screaming in the playground or whatever. And that we also put the pressure as people. That's what needs to change. We're not putting pressure on our politicians. We're not holding them accountable. That's the problem we're having. Everyone's just going on with their life. And, you and I have said this before. They read a headline and like, oh my God, what's going on? And they believe that to be true. But it's not always true. As you know, the media manipulates things. So what I hope post-Trump is this. We get back to acting like adults, really, to be honest. And that we as people start to realize we need to put the pressure on our politicians and make them do what we freaking voted them in their offices to do.
How do we do that, though? First of all, I don't think that's going to be a switch. I think it's going to be a slow fade, if anything, if we're lucky.
No, I agree with that one. Yeah.
How do we hold our politicians accountable? That's what that's a much more interesting conversation to me than anything else, man, because it's Congress. And that's what I always go back to. So how are we going to go? Now, do we hold them accountable by voting them all out? In other words, the only way to vote them all out is to stop voting, right? So you just vote them all out by omission. And then because you can't, and that takes organization. Or again, do you just get enough working class people to flood the system running that somebody else, you're just going to knock these people out playing the old game? I think the old game's too slow. I think we need something more disruptive. Look, I'm not a fan of what happened on January 6th, storming the Capitol, but I was always a fan of storming the Bastille as a kid. So I have to square that somehow with myself.
Yeah.
And I guess it comes down to cause, but I certainly feel like Congress needs an enema.
It does. So how we fix this, like you say, voting. That is true, but I think what it means is it means the opposite of what you said. You said not voting. The problem is people aren't showing up to vote right now. That's what's going on.
It's an easier ask. So just tell everyone to stay home and then nobody gets elected.
Yeah, people just aren't showing up to vote. And that happened on the last, regardless of how people feel about it, because I live in California, but the last Prop 50 thing that just happened, the California Republicans did not show up. They did not show up. There was I think it was a couple of million, my recall guys don't hold me. But anyway, there was a lot of Republicans registering California and less than 10% showed up to vote. And it was something that people were like, oh, we got to push back on this redistricting. Well, you guys didn't even show up. That's the problem. And it doesn't matter if it's Republican or Democrat. I'm just saying a lot of times when it matters, right? Because they say, oh, this is so important. The most important thing ever. We got to get out there and vote. They don't even fucking show up.
No.
It's like you dropped the ball.
But that's the media, right? So the reason that everybody shows up for a general election is because it's a show. It's like showing up for the Super Bowl.
Exactly. So it's going to be Congress, correct, but it's going to be actually caring about your backyard. It starts local. I always believe it starts where you live. You got to get out and care. You got to show up. You got to actually vote on issues that really do affect you instead of crying about it later because you didn't bother to show up. And
or just get involved.
Yeah, and that's part of what we were saying earlier, holding these people accountable, because you can't hold them accountable if you yourself aren't getting involved. Really?
Yeah, but look, I think the problem there is that a lot of people are working overtime just to get by, so they don't have time for it, let alone the interest.
Agreed. But when it comes to voting, okay, I'll just say this: like in California, they make it easy. They got a ballot box on every corner. It seemed like. Really, it's not hard. It's not hard to carry a ballot, drop it. They're in every library. There's designated places all over every city where you can drop your ballot. So yeah, we're all busy, but that could be like 15 minutes, break time, lunchtime, whatever. Just if it's
I meant too, but yeah, no, I get what you're saying. I just meant too busy to actually get involved. And what I fear.
Oh, that that part's correct. Yeah, we are. Yeah, unfortunately, in a society where we're just buried with keeping ourselves busy that we don't make time for the other things that are truly important, I think.
So I had a guest on the show a few weeks back. And you know what? I don't know if Keena's listening, but I totally forgot to respond to them. So I'm glad we're having this conversation. Now this is how this goes, right?
Yeah.
But they are a voting tech company. So they have a sort of a multi-pronged approach. They're trying to solve an immediate issue with security of voting booths.
Right.
And they're also providing a solution to get us to the point where people could vote on their phones securely for a general election. Obviously, that's a long road.
Yeah.
That's a long road. I agree. Rob said people don't want to be involved unless they're being funded. Absolutely. But that's like any endeavor. People don't want to put in the hard work, right? Most people think that if you have to start a business, if you're going to start a business as an entrepreneur, that you go raise money first and then you go. No,
right.
You don't raise money until you need money, and that's a whole other conversation. So I'm of the mindset that when I look into this landscape and I see all these people that are over in their own little universes, I mentioned Lincoln, Midas, and all these people. Like if they all actually really cared, they could get organized. We're losing his connection. They could get organized together, create a platform that any candidate could latch onto, irrespective of party, and we could start putting working class issues at the top of the conversation. Just by sort of like whatever the stupid project, what was it? Project 2025, whatever it was. But something that's more universal. something for working class people. I call it America 2.0, something that allows any candidate to latch onto it. It's a set of principles, things that people want. And I've written about this, but I think we got to do it in a way that breaks the party system. Doesn't have to do with money, allows anybody to organize off of it. And I talked about this with you. I've talked about this with Joe Walsh. The best way I think to take money out of politics is to stop raising money. There's enough social media out there to give people the voice and the reach they need if people really want it. Now, people don't want it.
Oh, sorry. I thought I dropped out.
No, that's perfect. Go.
I thought I dropped out.
Shit, so I don't know what's
I know. I don't know what's going on either. What I was going to say is, I think this goes back to a bit of what we talked about before, and I think if you want to really start, let's pull away let's pull away the temptations that will have these politicians basically be bought. I say let's stop lobbyists. I mean all of them. I don't care. No more lobbying, at least not the way it's done now. I think when it comes to lobbying, I think it should be done in front of everybody in Congress, whoever you want to address. It's maybe once a month, twice a month. I don't know. They'll figure it out. But you get yourself on the list to tell everybody what you want and why you need their support, and everybody hears at the same time, and it's out there, it's public, it's recorded. No backdoor deals, no private meetings, none of that bullshit anymore. It's like, here's your chance. Get in front of everybody publicly, broadcast it, by the way, and let them tell everyone in Congress exactly why they need their backing, why they should go ahead and pass whichever bill that benefits whoever it is. I think that we should start doing that. There shouldn't be any more super PACs. I say just get rid of all of it, man. They should be working based on their incentive to actually serve the people, and we got to get rid of that. And definitely ban anybody in Congress from fucking investing in the stock market. Period.
So the irony of everything you're saying is that requires a tyrant, a la Donald Trump, to make all that happen. And even though a lot of people don't like what Trump is up to, and a lot of people don't care because it's not about them. But it's just funny to me because the only way to really accomplish all of that is to have somebody come in, drop a bunch of executive orders, rule with an iron fist, and disrupt the system. I thought Trump would be that guy. Trump has made a very, it's kind of interesting. You look at that whole thing with Mondani, where he was like, just say it. Just call me fascist, me a fascist. Like, I don't care. Like, it's just easier that way. Like he's even tired. He's like, it's just the show. So it just bums me out, man. It bums me out that as smart as some of these people are, their intent is so fucked.
Well, it's like, we kind of need a tyrant, but maybe we need an actual real third party organization that would implement this and take control. Like they come in and say, let's say the people agree and we vote in and we say, look, we need a third party organization to come in for a year and just restructure this whole mess and how things are operated. It's like when you hire a consulting company from outside for your business, right? Like you're in trouble, you know what it is, but you need someone to come in, look at the books, check everything out, and get you back on track. Maybe it needs to be approached that way instead of relying on who already is in the system.
That's why
from the outside.
That's why I keep telling Joe Walsh, both publicly and privately, to run. Not because it's about Joe Walsh, okay? Because he's got the balls to disrupt the shit out of the thing for other people. Yeah. For other people. And he's run before, right? And like the thing is like, that dude doesn't want to be the guy. He doesn't. That guy just wants to fucking get us back to normalcy. Like I didn't believe that until I saw that. You know what I mean? I can't say that for a lot of those contemporaries, a lot of the people that he does those lives with.
That's true. Yeah,
and I've said that to him privately. I've said to him, I was like, so and so. I don't know how the fuck you talk to that guy all the time. You know what I mean? But you got to play the game. I'm just saying, a guy like that, the reason why I think he should run is because he could push that third party in a way other people couldn't and open the doors up for other people. And he's all about opening the doors up for women, which I totally support, because this country could totally benefit from female leadership. We need less white male ego. Okay.
Yeah.
So, to let a guy like that just bust the door open and let a lot of other guys, just no pun intended, run in his wake.
Well, I think in that situation, you're correct. Joe would definitely be the guy to kick the door open because he doesn't care. He seems very intent on shaking things up and getting things back on track. My only criticism of Joe has always been this. It seems like he's just running on a platform of I hate Donald Trump. That's the way it sounds to me. And I've talked to him as well. But it doesn't mean that he himself doesn't care about America and care about changing things up, because he's been very adamant about that as well. So I think unfortunately Joe was wronged when he was I think he was wronged when he was on the other side. I think people didn't pay attention to him enough when they should have. And it turned Joe into what he is now. And he's just like, fuck it, I'm going to kick the doors down. But I think he needs to have less focus on I hate Trump, because, like you said, it's a tired talking point. I think Joe needs to focus on, like you said, what's next? What's after Trump? Let's focus on how we.
But wait a second.
Like said,
I'm not saying this to defend him. I'm saying this to bring it back to the top of the conversation. Think about it from a content output perspective, right?
Yeah.
Like he's holding his audience,
and he's getting eyeballs.
But he's run before. So my whole thing is, unlike some other people who I would really like to name check, but I will not.
Mm-hmm.
He's done it before. So what I'm saying is, if you take this thing that you've held with this thing, okay, this brand, we would call it as content creators, right? But if you take it and convert it into this mission, then it makes it worth it. But if all we're going to keep doing is yelling without also thinking about how to move forward, then all we're doing is yelling. And I've said that to him. You've heard me say that to him. But he's receptive to that. And I just don't think there's enough people with that kind of set of balls.
That's the same point I was trying to make. To be honest, I just think, I understand why he's doing what he does. I do. It gets people's attention. It's relevant. I understand it, but I want to hear, because he's very good at what he does. Like, he talks, people listen. I just want to hear more post-Trump, because, like you said, Trump's done. He's done. He's not coming back. This is the last term. And it's obvious Trump doesn't give a fuck. He's going to make his mark. He's going to do what he thinks is going to make him look good once he's out of office. But with someone like Joe, who has the ability to get in there and be the disruptor, like you said, fine, I get it. So let's keep talking about Trump, get eyeballs, because a lot of people are pissed off about Trump. That's just the reality. But also offer post-Trump solutions.
Absolutely. Would you run?
I honestly would, but I don't think I'll ever get the backing. I'm too small, man. And nobody really pays attention to a lot of what I do. And the other thing is, if you look at my podcast, everything, I have a foul mouth. I'm a bit of a sailor when I speak. So, there's a lot that they could probably hold against me in terms of what I've said. But
do you think any of that matters anymore in a post-Trump world? I don't think it does.
In my mind, it does. Honestly, if I was really going to do this myself seriously, I would have taken a different approach. I would have washed my mouth more. I would have said things differently. Not how I feel, but how I delivered it. Because like I said, I believe someone who is a polished representative. When you're on the world stage and that's who you are, you are representing America to everybody. And I would rather have someone who you could look at and say, wow, okay, that's a president, versus, wow, that guy's crass. Look what he's very crass. Look what he just tweeted. Oh my God, I can't believe he said that. Like, that's just controversial. That's just getting people to talk about you. To me, that's not representing the American people at all. To me, it's kind of selfish, to be honest. It's look at me. And that's not what I believe a president should be. That's not what I would want to be, let's be honest. So I think I would have to, erase everything I did and start over. And at this point, maybe just, using whatever I might have, for as many people who do listen to me, to try to get behind someone who could make that difference. Maybe it's better to, help push them along and get them where they need to go and talk about that.
What's your main platform? Is it the podcast? Is it YouTube?
It's really, I don't even know what a podcast is anymore. Let's just put it that way. I call everything a podcast.
That's very fair.
I like the audio side. I've always liked audio because to me, it makes you pay attention and listen.
Yeah.
problem is everything's being put to video, so I had to get into video. It's like I did it. So then I went back to my YouTube and I revamped. I basically just redid the whole thing. So I've only been doing video for a little while. Honestly, it hasn't been that long. And so right now I get a lot more eyeballs on YouTube. Um, but the audio side still does very well. So you see it. I know as a content creator, you see it. Things go like this, right? It's like audio was
at the moment I can't see it because you're an 8-bit video. So
damn it. Just as long as you can hear me, hopefully.
Like you said, you're still getting in the video. I mean, that's we see it in real time.
This is on the iPhone, man. What are we talking about? This is my.
I don't. Which iPhone are you using?
But come on, I'm spending money.
Everything is. I'm busting your balls. Everything is. It's so funny you said that. Everything is a podcast because once video gets lumped in, what's the difference between an episode and a podcast and a TV show and a?
I don't know. To me, it's all. To me, everything has really become a TV show. If you really think about it,
right?
There's no difference. Everyone's wanting to do the live stream thing, which I get. The reason I don't is because I'm very sporadic. I can't keep a schedule. It's a lot of things is based on when I'm available, right? And then if you look at people live streaming, they don't want to admit it, but it's just a weekly broadcast. That's all it is.
I say that every day.
Yeah, it's a weekly broadcast. They're always like, "Hey, tune in at 7 a.m. on this day." Like it's always the same. You are now basically a show. You're a show. You know, it's what it is. You're a broadcast, and people keep. They got to understand what they are.
My live streams don't exist anywhere for replay.
Right. I get it. But as far as everyone else is concerned, it's like they're basically putting on a show. And that's exactly what they're doing. They're doing a broadcast. They're no longer a podcast. So I think podcast is antiquated. It's like if you're gonna stick to audio only, you're a podcaster. If you're gonna do audio, video, etc., you're a content creator. And at that point, you just got to figure out what category you're in and just lean into it. You know, if you're a political commentator, then you are a political commentator. If you're just doing, I don't know, cats dancing on the roof playing violins, then maybe you're just that guy. I don't know.
You might be doing something completely different, is what that's about.
Exactly. So I think everybody is literally becoming a broadcast. They're a show. It's just not on normal TV anymore.
I don't know if people think about like. So as you know, my main thing is IRL. So I go out on TikTok and I stream live and I'm running around the parks. And anybody can go do that because that's there. That's the backdrop. So I've always perceived it as a broadcast and a show. What are you going to do to differentiate? How do you choose to engage with your audience? You look at the show and you look at the pieces of the show and you tool the show and you retool the show and there's characters on the show that come and go. And I look at it. I don't know if everybody out there does that or if they're just like, well, I'm going live today.
Right.
I don't know. I don't know if everybody that does what you do can even have the introspective nature to go, is this a podcast? Is this an episode? Maybe it's, you know what I mean? Like, I think some people are just chasing without thought.
Yeah.
So I will take all that to say this. I push back on the notion. I don't even know how many followers you have, wherever you have them. I have no clue. The idea that you're too small to get backing, I think is bullshit.
Maybe.
I think it's the work ethic, it's the entrepreneurial spirit, it's the ability to produce. That is what you need in today's world. You don't need the capital.
Yeah, it's like I said, it's something to consider. And at this point, we got other guys out there that already have momentum. Like you said, we're talking about Joe. I'd like to see Joe succeed. I'd like to see him become what he says he is. And if he's given that opportunity to really, turn things upside down. And I've always said it. I'm more conservative than I am of the left, for example. But that's what's interesting about Joe to me is he is conservative in principles. And I've talked to him where he's literally said, sometimes he's like this with the Democrat Party because they don't see eye to eye, but they see the value in what he has to offer. And he's slowly getting them to understand, like, look, if we're going to move forward, this is how we're going to do it. So, I mean, I'd be really interested in hearing his behind the door conversations with these people. I'm sure they're very interesting. But I
Might
think
not be
that
though.
yeah, I think there's people who are in a position now that have the momentum that can actually probably do better. I think if it was like my case or even your case, just be honest, I think starting local, get my feet wet, understanding it better from the inside, and then moving up. Jumping into something like a presidency is crazy. Like if you don't have the inside
I'm not
track
talking about
or
presidency. I'm talking about state senate. I'm talking about
no,
Congress.
understood. I'm just using that as example, like
I don't.
jumping from here to there.
I think anybody with genuine intent on public service would not be looking at the office of the presidency first.
No, you're
They
looking at Congress.
consider it as an option, right? Well, no, because if you hit Congress, then you go, well, what's the roadmap? Um,
Exactly.
the reason I just bring it back to all that is because I think that the more people you have that are taking swings, the better all of our odds increase.
Yeah, like I said, I've considered local politics and I've actually considered Congress. I in California especially, I think there's definitely a lot of opportunity. I don't know. I don't know if I'm ready. I'd have to really change a lot of things, Royce, to be quite honest. But your whole point earlier about getting involved, that's exactly what we need, right? Like someone like me, get involved. What's the next step outside of just talking crap on a mic? Get involved, right? That's the next step. So yeah, something I've considered. I think it's something that most everyone who does what I do should consider. But then, you gotta look at it from this point of view too, Royce. Sometimes being the person that can call shit out as it is and bringing attention to the matter is what's needed as well. So you need both sides. You really do.
You absolutely do because you need accountability.
Yeah.
You do, but not every content creator is a journalist. Um,
No, I'm not. I mean, I do research, but I'm not going to call myself a journalist. You
no,
know?
I don't. Look, most of these guys aren't journalists. Most of these guys are just, they're content creators. Literally, that's it. That's the best part because
Yeah, but at what point are they a content creator versus a machine? Let's like that's just spitting out content because a lot of these bigger guys they claim they're always independent, but they have like 100 people working for them. They have teams just
all right.
scouring the
Well,
internet for
let's
information.
end on Midas Touch.
You know,
Let's talk about Midas Touch for a second because you don't know this, but I'm the one that put Midas Touch on, and I will take the credit for how much bullshit that they put out over the years. Because in the early days, I was doing Stutter and John and Noel Kassler's podcast, okay, and I was producing that, and I saw, and by episode 2, this video these guys put out, and those guys put it on, and John tweeted it out, and it blew them up, and they had a pack.
right?
Now that pack is no longer, and they're a media company. Maybe the pack still exists, I don't know, but they went from politics to media company, to your point. So now you're an independent media organization, but you're a media organization.
Yes.
Okay. So all along, when you were out there acting like an activist and a political movement, you were really going for media company.
Yeah.
Which means at this point, what is your intent? Your intent is solely to make money, not to make a difference.
Yeah, it flips. It flips. And that's the thing I think about. Like, not saying this will, but let's say you or I became famous of that level in terms of our shows, right? Or what we're doing. Would we have the integrity to stay the course in who we are? I think about that sometimes because you never know
Oh,
how
I
it's
know
going to
I
be
would.
until someone waves
I don't
waves the
give a
money in front of
fuck.
you.
Let me tell you something. If I ever get in the position of Congress, I will be hated by both sides. I will be the
Oh
person in
yeah.
Congress that's hated by everybody.
Oh, that'd be me. I can guarantee you that. Yeah, I'd be the same way. But I'm just saying when it comes to like this show podcasting, whatever we call this, as you said, I agree with you. I don't know what it is anymore. Um, Personalities like us need to stay the course. And what I've seen, and that's why I was throwing that out there, is when people start to get that money and fame, is it them changing or is it them keeping up with the demand of what they built?
Correct. Well, that
Sometimes
goes back
like
to the Walsh Trump thing, and it's like, well, this is what I built. This is what people expect. How do I disrupt it? And most
right.
people, if they're fortunate enough to get that, then become fearful of disrupting it. And that goes for any content creator. I see that in my world with what I do in the parks at Disney, the theme park of it all. It takes a lot to break what you've built. It takes a lot, you know?
It does. And I always go back to, this is just from personal experience. So this is what I can actually speak to, where this situation was kind of applied. It was with my business that I had, when I'm doing event and concert production, for example, and I'm out there, I built it to a certain level that it became so known, or I became known within that certain industry where I am, that it's almost like you invest all this money in equipment and you invest all this money and payroll and infrastructure and having people, that all of a sudden it turns into like, I'm feeding this machine. Like I don't know how to stop it. Like, and if I do, the whole thing just implodes on us all.
House of cards.
Exactly. Yeah. Cause I mean, that's how it eventually gets. It's like, you're just moving so fast. And it's like, wait, I need this. I need that. And so I think that's what happens to a lot of these so-called podcasters, right? I think they start with good intentions, and I'm not saying that in their heart they may no longer have good intentions, but now they realize they got to feed the beast, because if they miss one episode, if they don't say one thing after a major event, people lose interest and they move on, and they can't afford to move on. So it's like
you have to disconnect from that. I thought in the early days that was my biggest fear. It's if I disappeared for a day, they'd all forget. And I have gone on many a hiatus, and you learn that in the real world of TV and production, that hiatus is normal. You don't expect your favorite show to put out an episode every week, every day of the year, or every week of the year. So there's breaks. That's healthy. But the constant cycle of social media makes you feel like in order to stay on top, you have to always be there.
Well, and that's the reason my social media is not that big. I don't sit there 24/7 working it. I just don't have the time. I got a real life. I got real things to take care of. But these other people we're talking about, that is their career now. You know what I'm saying? Like, they don't know how to disconnect and shut it off. You and I, like, I know you've got a hiatus. So do I. I am not consistent. I'll admit
it. What is today? Today's Sunday. So yesterday was my day off. Okay. Now, I joke that it's my day off because all week I'm streaming, but yesterday was my day off. So I spent all morning doing other things. And then I still went to the park and streamed. What did we stream? 7 hours on TikTok last night?
Yeah.
That was my day off.
That's a day. That's a day.
There's no day off. But because you know what happens? And I know you can relate to this. And I'm really glad that actually we're doing a little under the hood on process this time. But I know you can relate to this. I had done so much of everything else that I had to do that I was tired of that shit. And I just wanted to do the thing that I do, the thing that people expect me to do, the thing that I enjoy doing the most, the thing that comes easiest, the thing that makes the most money. But like, you have to stop sometimes. You have to do the editing. You have to do like, anybody who saw my socials yesterday was like, oh, he's catching up on videos, because I was dropping videos everywhere.
That's what I do. I do the same thing.
Yeah. But
I just dump it.
Yeah. But do you remember the time when you overthought that? You were like, I don't want to put 2 in a row. Now you're just like, fuck it, I got to get these out of my plate.
Yeah, there's supposedly this formula to posting on social media, releasing things. Like, I don't even care. I'm at the point now. It's like, you know what? I don't have time for this. I don't use a bunch of scheduling software, and it's like, I have the time now. I'm just going to put it out because I don't know when I'll be able to have the time to do it again. So it's like, whatever. But I think this content creation thing, if you let it'll take you over, and it'll become this beast that you got to keep feeding. And you're right. You got to take breaks. You got to step away and just realize, like, you got to have a normal life, man. You got to be able to, because look, social media is not necessarily the real world. It's filled with bots. It's filled with AI. It's filled with a lot of things that you could be arguing with a freaking program. That's the reality of it. So you got to tune out and talk to people in the real world. Like, compare and contrast what you see on social media with what your friends and family or your colleagues are saying in the real world, and that'll give you a gauge of what's really happening.
And that goes for the audience. It's both the producers and the consumers, as I call them. Everybody needs a little moderation, and I think that the biggest problem with social media, and we can end on this because I know you have to go, is it works best for the companies when engagement is up, obviously. So what's the thing that drives engagement? Conflict, right?
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
you're not, it's just like the news on TV in the old days, like in the old days, George.
Right.
It's provocative sells, conflict sells. You don't turn on the news to see happy stories. You turn on the news to see car wrecks and fires.
Yeah.
Now, whether people realize that's another story, you got to be honest with yourself. So social media is designed for negativity.
It's all rage bait. Rage bait drives the algorithm. That's just basically what it is. And the fact that we have an algorithm, a program determining what content is seen and what isn't is ridiculous. It's not really based on what people come across and what they actually like. It's about what's force fed to you, really. And I think some people, it's a big game and it sucks because it's like if you keep seeing the same message over and over and over, you either eventually buy in or you become so disgusted that you just check out. And unfortunately, a lot of people buy in. It's just the way it is. It's just basic, marketing 101. It's like just like you said before, when you referred to Steve Bannon, flooding the zone with shit. That's what happens. It's just constant. But unfortunately, it's based on a computer program doing that. It's not us connecting with what we really like, or we're just like seeing the same. Like made the example about cats, for example, cats dancing on a rooftop. You see it over and over and over and over, and then you start to go, it's kind of funny. I like that. I'm going to look at more cats. Like you're being conditioned to
You don't even get the
like
choice.
the stuff.
You
No,
stay on it for
exactly.
5 seconds, and then tells you like cats.
Exactly. So you're being conditioned to like what you like on social media, and that's why your feed turns into what it is, and that's why all you see is this sometimes just super negative stuff, is because that is what you're responding to. I guess the only way to break the algorithm is stop responding. Say no. I don't like this. Move on to something else.
I switched iPhones like a week or two ago. I'm actually late to return it, and AT&T's like, "Well, you can't do the swap now." And I'm like, "We'll figure this out later because I'm not, I need time as a content creator to get all this stuff off my phone. I can't do it in the time they give me, and I'm too busy." But anyway, so I realized I never brought the X app over because I did I don't do like a auto update. I manually bring stuff over from phone to phone.
Right.
And so I had not been on X in weeks. Best thing I've ever done.
I did the same thing. I just got back on it because I had a little bit of a break, and I had to catch up on some stuff, and I was just like, it's such a different world. Since you brought up iPhone, I was going to bring this up. I don't know. I know I got to go, but I'm gonna read it up. I'm gonna read it. Did you hear about the Apple allegedly being sued for possible use of conflict minerals? So there's an advocacy group here. IRA Advocates. They sued Apple over the use of minerals from conflict zones and human rights abuses in the Democratic Republic of Congo and Rwanda, despite Apple's denials. Interesting. I only brought that up because you were talking about Apple earlier, and you said it again. But it seems like they're in hot water, and this is basically circling back to what we talked about earlier about post-Trump. I think we're going to see more people standing up and holding people, companies, everything accountable, because I think they're kind of done with what's happening, and they're actually like looking through the bullshit and doing their own research and finding the truth and going, hold on, this isn't right. We got to do something about this. So that was interesting.
You're right. I hope you're right. But who's going to stand up to Apple? Apple's like one of the richest companies, if not the richest company.
Well, there's I got to read deeper into this, but there's an advocacy group that actually came together to bring this lawsuit to Apple. So it's happening. So the lawsuit alleges Apple's supply chain includes cobalt, tin, tantalum, tungsten, linked to child and forced labor, armed groups in the Congo, Rwanda, and you know what? A lot of that, I'll just say, is true, and a lot of that is also driven by China, who actually controls the area and the mines, and that's a whole other conversation we get into. Something that's not talked about enough. But I thought I'd leave you with that little tidbit.
I got to just put a button on that now because you're bringing this to Disney and you don't even realize it. So they talk about cobalt on the animal kingdom, on the safari, because they talk about conservation, animal conservation, recycling your electronic devices, because these are minerals that are finite.
Right.
And it affects the environment of these animals, like the elephants. So it kind of all comes back. But we'll leave it there. But conservation and caring about the planet should not be a political issue, George.
No, it should not, man.
Why
I mean,
you're laughing at that, which is hilarious to me.
well, because it shouldn't be. That shouldn't even be an argument, dude. It's like, do you just walk in your living room and just throw trash on the ground? I mean, really?
I knew a guy in Studio City, California that literally did. I walked into his house and his entire house was littered with trash. And I didn't know it. And I had the drummer from The Tonight Show with us because I was working
Oh,
at NBC at the time. And I'm
yeah,
like,
yeah.
and he wanted to smoke a bowl. And I was like, oh, we'll go over here to Lee's house. I didn't know that Lee was a spoiled kid. That literally, what George, when I tell you this kid had trash on the floor across the entire house, he had trash on the floor. There's no exaggeration here. It was the grossest thing I've ever seen. And we had to kick trash away to sit down. People live that way.
That's crazy, man.
People
That's
live that
crazy.
way. So yeah,
I
people
know.
are going to treat the earth that way.
Yeah, yeah. That's ridiculous. But anyway, I think
Anyway,
what you said is correct. Yeah, it should not be a political issue.
correct.
It really shouldn't.
All right. Well, look,
I got to
decent
go.
conversation.
I got the other guy over here
Oh, go,
already
bye.
poking at me. No,
We'll
it's
talk.
cool. Wrap up.
We'll do it. No, we'll do this again. I'm sure. I enjoyed these conversations, and I like that today became a little bit more about work because work has been really heavy for me lately. So I kind of like to hear other people's process and not feel like I'm on an island. You know.
Yeah. And that being said,
What?
and that being said, I suddenly have another one lined up right now. So it's like,
Go. You're not working hard enough. Go.
all right. Thank you, Royce.
Take care.
Bye.
Later. Bye.